Human beings are naturally wired to respond to what is immediately in front of them. We make decisions based on what we feel, what we see, and what we think we need at the present moment. Our emotions are influenced by circumstances, and our desires are shaped by what we lack. Because of this, we often measure success by speed and progress, by how quickly things change in our favor. If something takes too long, we assume it is not meant for us. If a door does not open when we knock, we assume it is closed forever. But this way of thinking comes from a limited perspective because we see only a small part of the story. God, on the other hand, sees the entire picture. God is not confined by time the way we are. He does not move from past to present to future the way humans do. To him, everything exists in one complete view. He knows where you have been, where you are now, and where you are going. He knows the choices you will face, the people you will meet, the obstacles you will encounter, and the opportunities that will come your way. What surprises you has never surprised him. What confuses you has never confused him. What feels uncertain to you is already clear in his plan. Because God sees the full picture, his timing is never random. Every delay, every closed door, every unexpected turn has a purpose. Yet, from our limited perspective, these things often feel frustrating. When we pray for something and it does not happen immediately, we assume God is ignoring us. When we work hard but do not see instant results, we think our efforts are wasted. When opportunities pass us by, we feel forgotten. But the truth is, what looks like a delay is often divine protection or preparation. There are moments in life when we desperately want something, but we are not ready for it. We may have the desire, but not the wisdom. We may have the opportunity, but not the character. We may have the dream, but not the discipline to sustain it. If God gave us everything we wanted at the moment we asked for it, many of us would collapse under the weight of our own blessings. The very things we pray for could become the very things that destroy us. That is why God's timing is rooted in purpose, not just desire. Think about how often people rush into situations they are not prepared for. Some rush into relationships because they feel lonely, only to discover later that the person was not right for them. Some rush into business ventures because they want quick success, only to lose everything because they lacked experience or wisdom. Some rush into positions of influence or leadership before their character is strong enough to handle it, and the pressure exposes their weaknesses. In each of these situations, speed becomes the enemy of purpose. God is not interested in how fast you arrive, He is interested in who you become along the way. He understands that the journey is just as important as the destination. The process shapes your character, builds your faith, and prepares your mind. What feels like wasted time is often a season of unseen growth. Roots grow in the dark before fruit appears in the light. Preparation happens quietly, away from the spotlight, long before the reward is visible. Many people want the outcome without the process. They want success without discipline, influence without responsibility, and blessings without transformation. But God's way is different. He is more concerned with your inner life than your outer achievements. He knows that if your character is not strong enough, your success will not last. If your heart is not mature, your blessings will become burdens. If your faith is not developed, your trials will overwhelm you. What feels like a delay is often a form of protection. There are situations God keeps you away from because He sees consequences you cannot see. There are people He removes from your life because He knows the harm they could cause in the future. There are opportunities He closes because they would lead you away from your purpose. At the moment, these things feel like losses. You feel disappointed, confused, or even hurt. But later, when you look back, you realize those closed doors were actually acts of mercy. God's timing also involves alignment. For something to happen at the right moment, many different factors must come together. The right people must be in place, the right opportunities must appear, the right conditions must exist. You may be ready for something, but the environment around you may not be ready yet. God is not only preparing you, He is also preparing the circumstances around you. He is working in the hearts of other people, arranging situations, opening paths, and closing others. What looks like a delay from your perspective may actually be a complex process of alignment taking place behind the scenes. When you only see the moment, you focus on what is missing. You notice the unanswered prayers, the unfulfilled dreams, and the slow progress. But when you trust that God sees the full picture, your perspective begins to change. Instead of asking, "Why is this taking so long?" you begin to ask, "What is God preparing me for?" Instead of feeling forgotten, you begin to believe you are being positioned. Instead of rushing ahead, you begin to walk with patience and trust. Trusting God's timing requires faith. It means believing that even when nothing seems to be happening, something is still taking place. It means understanding that silence does not mean absence and delay does not mean denial. Sometimes God's greatest work happens in seasons where you see the least outward change. Those are the times when He is shaping your thoughts, strengthening your faith, and teaching you to depend on Him rather than on circumstances. Patience is not simply waiting, it is waiting with the right attitude. It is trusting that the process has value. It is believing that God is not withholding good things from you, but rather preparing you to receive them in the best way possible. When you adopt this mindset, waiting no longer feels like punishment. It becomes a period of growth and expectation. There is a peace that comes when you accept that God sees more than you do. You no longer feel the pressure to force things to happen. You no longer feel the anxiety of comparing your journey to someone else's. You begin to understand that your life is not meant to follow someone else's timeline. God's plan for you is unique, and His timing reflects that uniqueness. Some people achieve success early in life, while others reach it later. Some find their purpose quickly, while others discover it after many years. These differences are not signs of failure or favoritism, they are simply reflections of God's individual timing for each person. What matters is not how fast you get there, but whether you arrive prepared. When the right moment comes, things begin to unfold in ways you could not have planned yourself. Doors open that you did not knock on. People appear who help you in unexpected ways. Opportunities arise that fit your purpose perfectly. What once felt slow suddenly begins to move with clarity and direction. That is the beauty of divine timing. When God moves, everything aligns in a way that makes sense, even if it did not make sense before. Looking back, many people realize that the moments they thought were delays were actually turning points. The job they did not get led them to a better one. The relationship that ended protected them from deeper pain. The opportunity that seemed lost made space for something greater. In hindsight, God's timing always proves wiser than human impatience. When you understand that God sees the full picture, you begin to live differently. You stop chasing every opportunity that appears. You stop forcing doors open. You stop measuring your worth by how quickly things happen. Instead, you focus on growth, faithfulness, and preparation. You trust that when the time is right, what is meant for you will come. This perspective brings freedom. It frees you from anxiety, from comparison, and from the pressure to control everything. You begin to walk with confidence, knowing that your life is not guided by chance but by purpose. Even when you cannot see the full picture, you can trust the one who can. In the end, God's timing is not about delay or speed, it is about purpose. It is about alignment, preparation, and protection. While we see only the moment, God sees the entire journey. And when you trust His timing, you discover that what He gives you, when He gives it, and how He gives it is always better than anything you could have arranged on your own. Waiting is one of the most misunderstood experiences in the human journey. Most people see waiting as a sign that something is wrong, as if life has paused or God has forgotten about them. We live in a world that celebrates speed, instant results, and quick success. Everything around us encourages immediate satisfaction. If food takes too long, we choose something faster. If a message is not answered quickly, we feel ignored. If progress is slow, we assume we are failing. Because of this mindset, waiting feels uncomfortable, frustrating, and even painful. But from a spiritual perspective, waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. God does not waste time, and He does not waste seasons. Every period of waiting has a purpose behind it. When something takes longer than expected, it is often because God is doing a deeper work beneath the surface. While you are focused on the outcome, God is focused on your character. He understands that what you become is more important than what you receive. Blessings without character can destroy a person. Opportunities without maturity can overwhelm them. Success without wisdom can lead to downfall. That is why God uses waiting as a tool to shape the heart, the mind, and the spirit. In seasons of delay, patience is developed. Patience is not simply the ability to sit still, it is the ability to trust while nothing seems to be happening. It is the strength to remain faithful when progress feels slow. Patience teaches you to let go of control and place your confidence in God's timing instead of your own expectations. Without patience, people become restless. They rush into decisions, force situations, and try to create outcomes on their own. This often leads to regret because impatience causes people to choose what is available instead of what is right. Waiting also develops faith. Faith grows strongest in uncertain seasons. When everything is visible and predictable, faith is not required. But when the future is unclear, when prayers seem unanswered, and when doors remain closed, faith becomes essential. It is in those quiet seasons that faith is tested and strengthened. You begin to learn that faith is not based on what you see, but on who God is. You discover that trusting God means believing in His goodness even when you do not understand His timing. Humility is another quality that grows during waiting. Success and quick achievements can sometimes create pride. When things come easily, people may begin to believe they are self sufficient. They may forget their dependence on God and start relying only on their own abilities. But waiting reminds you that you are not in control of everything. It teaches you to surrender, to seek guidance, and to recognize that every good thing comes from God. Humility keeps your heart soft and your spirit teachable. It prepares you to receive blessings with gratitude instead of pride. Strength is also formed in seasons of waiting. Just as muscles grow through resistance, spiritual strength grows through challenges and delays. Waiting teaches endurance. It trains you to keep moving forward even when results are not immediate. It helps you develop resilience, the ability to remain steady when circumstances are uncertain. People who have never experienced waiting often lack the strength to handle pressure. But those who have walked through long seasons of preparation become stable, grounded, and strong. If blessings came too early, many people would not be ready for them. Imagine giving a child the responsibilities of an adult. The weight would be too heavy and the expectations would be overwhelming. In the same way, some blessings require a certain level of maturity. A position of influence requires wisdom. A successful business requires discipline. A meaningful relationship requires emotional stability. If these things come before a person is prepared, they can create stress, confusion, and failure. God's timing ensures that you do not just receive the promise, but that you are ready to sustain it. It is one thing to receive a blessing, it is another thing to keep it. Many people achieve success quickly but lose it just as fast. They receive opportunities, but because their character is not strong enough, they misuse them or fail to handle the pressure. God's goal is not just to give you something for a moment, His goal is to give you something that lasts. During seasons of waiting, God often works in ways that are invisible. You may not see dramatic changes in your circumstances, but something is happening inside you. Your thinking begins to change. Your priorities begin to shift. Your perspective becomes clearer. You start to value growth over speed, character over comfort, and purpose over popularity. These internal changes are far more important than any external success. Waiting also teaches you to listen. When life is busy and everything moves quickly, it is easy to ignore God's voice. But in quiet seasons, when progress slows down, you have the opportunity to reflect, pray, and seek direction. Waiting creates space for spiritual clarity. It allows you to examine your heart, correct your motives, and align your desires with God's will. There is also a refining process that takes place in waiting. Just as gold is purified through fire, character is purified through delay and difficulty. Impurities such as impatience, pride, fear, and selfish ambition are gradually removed. The waiting season exposes weaknesses, but it also strengthens virtues. It is a process that may feel uncomfortable, but it produces lasting transformation. Waiting shifts your focus from the blessing to the blesser. Instead of being obsessed with what you want, you begin to appreciate who God is. Your relationship with Him deepens. You learn to trust His wisdom rather than your own understanding. This relationship becomes the foundation of your life, far more valuable than any material blessing. Many people look back on their lives and realize that the waiting seasons were the most important ones. Those were the times when they grew the most, learned the most, and changed the most. At the time, those seasons may have felt frustrating, but later they became sources of wisdom and strength. The lessons learned during waiting often become the very things that sustain success later. Waiting also aligns your desires with God's purpose. Sometimes what you want at one stage of life is not what you truly need. As you grow, your perspective changes. The things that once seemed urgent may no longer feel important. Waiting gives you time to mature, to rethink your priorities, and to discover what truly matters. It helps you move from temporary desires to lasting purpose. When the time finally comes and the blessing arrives, it often feels different than you imagined. You appreciate it more, you handle it with greater wisdom, you approach it with humility and gratitude. Because of the preparation you went through, you are able to sustain it. What once would have overwhelmed you now feels manageable. What once would have led to pride now leads to thankfulness. God's timing shapes you into the person who can handle the promise. He is not just concerned with giving you something, He is concerned with who you become in the process. The waiting season is like a training ground. It builds your endurance, sharpens your wisdom, and strengthens your faith. By the time the promise arrives, you are no longer the same person who first prayed for it. You are wiser, stronger, and more prepared. There is also a sense of peace that comes when you understand the purpose of waiting. Instead of feeling anxious, you begin to trust the process. You realize that delay is not rejection. You understand that God is not ignoring you, He is shaping you. This realization brings comfort and confidence. You no longer feel the need to rush or force things to happen. You learn to walk at the pace of God's timing. Waiting becomes easier when you focus on growth instead of results. Each day becomes an opportunity to develop character, deepen faith, and strengthen your relationship with God. Instead of asking, "When will this happen?" you begin to ask, "Who am I becoming during this time?" That shift in perspective changes everything. In the end, waiting is one of God's greatest tools for preparation. It is not wasted time. It is not a sign of failure. It is a sacred process that shapes your character and prepares your heart. It develops patience, faith, humility, and strength. It protects you from receiving blessings before you are ready. It transforms you into the person who can sustain the promise. When you understand this, waiting no longer feels like a burden. It becomes a season of growth, expectation, and quiet transformation. You begin to trust that every delay has meaning, every pause has purpose, and every season of waiting is leading you towards something greater than you can imagine.